Right, we're still on GCSE, and now we're going on to fractions. Now, we're going to whiz through this because I'm assuming that we're all quite smart people and we learned something in primary school. Ha! Isn't that good? So what we're going to do in this one is we're just going to say, what is a fraction? What is an equivalent fraction? What operations do we do on fractions and how do we do them? Then how to do fractions of things, because mathematics is problem solving with numbers. If you're not going to solve any problems, you're not really doing maths, are you? So, yeah, does that look like a magic trick? So we're doing fractions. I'm going to get this on the board. What is a fraction? So a fraction is where you've got a number on top and then a little line and then a number on the bottom. What does any of that mean? So let me tell you. In this colour, or this colour, I don't know. That is a fraction. Can you read that from there? Not when it's focusing on me. This is a fraction, a over b. Now, we don't know what a is, we don't know what b is, but both of those are integers. This integer is called the numerator. This is just a fraction word to say the number on the top. This is called the denominator. It's just a fraction word to say the number on the bottom. And both of them are integers. So that means that anything which we write on the top and bottom which are integers, like 1/2, that's a fraction. 4/3, 4/3, that's a fraction. What about 2/2? You see, I'm saying different words, but they all mean the same thing. 1/2, 4/3, 2/2. 2/2 just cancels down. It's 2 divided by 2. That's why I do my divides like that. To 1. So that means that 1 is a fraction. Well, it is. It's just usually we write it as a whole number. Yeah, and then minus numbers as well. 80/10. Well, that goes down to 8. So these are all types of fractions. But you see, if I wrote 1 here, 2/4, just like that is the same as 1. That's the same as 8. This is going to be the same as a half because we've got a common factor on top and bottom. So let's have a look at what equivalent fractions are. So equivalent in mathematics means that they are identical, completely identical, as in the exact same thing. We'll write that with 3 little lines. If we had a half, that's the same as 2/4. So like if you had a pizza and you chopped it in half, you'd have half a pizza. If you had a pizza and you chopped it into 4, but then you took 2 of those, that would mean you've got half a pizza. But the way you can figure out if something is equivalent is doing the common factors thing again. What we could write 2/4 as is 2 times 1/2 times 2. You got a 2 on the top, you got a 2 on the bottom. You're going to cancel those out. That takes the multiply sign with it. So you've got that. Let's find an equivalent fraction to 81/72. So what are our common factors of 81 and 72? Well, we've got 9 times 9 on the top, and we've got 9 times 8 on the bottom. So then they cancel, that cancels. Get 9/8. You see, I could have done this a different way. I knew to do 9 times 8 and 9 times 9 because, well, I thought of the question. But you see, what I could have done is done the entire factor tree thing and then cancelled each one's out. Any ones left over, multiply them out. And that's what you get. So do one more, yeah? 64/120. 64 we can write as so I did a lot of that just there. I did 2 factor trees for 64 and 120. 2 to the power of 6 is what I wrote that one as. That looks like 26. Let's do 2 to the power of 6. Then on the bottom we've got 2 to the power of 3 times 3 times 5. Now, some of those 2's are going to cancel. We've got 3 on the bottom and 6 on the top. So that would just, 3 of those would cancel 3 of those. So we get 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. Then on the bottom we'd get 3 times 5 which is 15. If you did that on your calculator, you would see it is identical. It is equivalent. So, what do we do next? Operations. So we're moving on to operations. I've stood on something. This is in the way. So if you remember from the last time, operations are plus, minus, times, divide. I'm going to talk about times first because that's the easiest, surprisingly. Let's do it with an example. 3/4 times 5/7. What you actually do is you just multiply top by top and bottom by bottom. You're just doing that. So this just easily becomes 3 times 5/4 times 7, which is 15/28. You could look at cancelling that down to an equivalent fraction which is smaller, which is usually what you would do. But that's 5 times 3, which that can't go into. So that's the smallest one. That is it. Yeah, you could just do it for another one if you wanted. 1/2 times... What if it was a whole number? 1/2 times 4. Well, like I said earlier, that 4 we could write as actually a fraction of 4/1, which then you do the same process and you get 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2, it's 4/2, which you can cancel down to something equivalent, so it's just 2. What you've done there is you've done half of 4. That's what that means. Hey, so next, let's look at divide. Let's say that we're dividing 8/11 is being divided by 7/6. Let's do a small number. What this means is that this, right, because you're dividing by a fraction, which means you're doing a fraction of a fraction, just remember this rule. This bit, you're going to flip it. So this just becomes 8/11 times by 3/7. Because I said previously that the inverse of divide is multiply. So you're going to do the inverse, but you're going to flip it upside down. Now we're just going to do the same as previously. So this becomes 8 times 3, which is 24/77. That's it. Now we're going to go on to the harder ones. Oh, deep breath. Okay, we've got a plus now. Let's do the same one here, but we're going to plus them. Actually, we'll do a really simple one first. 3/4 plus 1/4. Imagine you've chopped up your pizza into 4 pieces, you've got 3 of them, then you add another one to it. You've got your full pizza back again. What does that mean? Well, actually, because they're both split with the same denominator, that means we can just add the numbers on the top. So it becomes 4/4, which is just 1, not 4, 1. What if they weren't the same? Well, 3/4 plus 1/3. If you chopped up your pizza into 4, you got 3 of those, and you added 1/3 of pizza, what are you going to be left with? Why is that? What is that? So what we have to do first is put these, I've written make same. You have to make them the same one. And you do that by finding the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. You could just times those two together actually. That would make life easier. In fact, let's go down that route. What you have to do is you're going to times this and this together. Then you times that and that together. This is called cross multiplying. Times in the top and the bottom by 3, and on the other one you times in top and bottom by 4. The purpose of this is that you're actually making it into equivalent fractions, but where the bottom is both the same. So that means this one on the left is going to become 3 times 3 on the top, 9/3 times 4, 12. This is going to be 4 times 1, which is 4/12. These are equivalent fractions. But now we've got the same denominator. Since they are now the same, we can just add as before. And you get 13/12. You see, what is 13/12 of a pizza? Well, it's 1 and an extra bit, isn't it? Yeah, that's what that is. So, That is adding. What is minusing? I'll do minusing up there. Now this is funny because it's exactly the same thing, but with a minus sign. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I'll just put a minus there. But that would be a minus, so you would be like doing 9 minus 4. So if that was a minus and that was a minus, that would be a minus, and then that would be 9 minus 4, which is 5. Same thing, exact same thing. This one, 13 over 12 though, let me just mention that quickly. 13 over 12, the number on top is bigger than the bottom. That's called a top-heavy fraction. What it means is you've got a whole something and then a bit more. In GCSE, you use this really grotesque notation. I'm going to say it's grotesque because it is. If you had 5.5, say, GCSE, you write 5.5 like that. In A level, which is something that I'm used to teaching, that to me would mean 5 times a half. But in GCSE, that means 5.5, which is really to say, it means 5 plus a half. Now a top-heavy fraction is something like 11 over 2. What this is, right, so we've got 10 plus a 1. We'll just do 11 divided by 2. You get 5, remainder 1. So then it's that remainder 1 is divided by 2, so it ends up being 5 remainder 1, 5.5. That is horrible notation. I just don't like it, but GCSE, you get those things given. That is it as one whole fraction. So that's GCSE notation for you. What time are we on? We're doing all right. Cool. So we've done we've done equivalent, we've done operations, now fractions of things. Fractions of things, for example, we'll just talk about examples. What is a half of 60? Well, we can do that off the bat, can't we? Half of 60. You just halve it, you cut it in 2, you get 30. But what have you actually just done? Well, remember here, you're actually just timesing it. What you have just done is half times 60 over 1, which is 60 over 2. Then you've simplified that into an equivalent, which is just 30. See, this method is easier, and it makes it so you can do it of anything. So if you wanted 5/7 of, I've just had to backtrack because I did an example and it didn't work. Well, it did work, it's just it was too hard of numbers for right now. So I'll do a better one. 5/7 of 154. So what we're going to do, same as before, I'm just going to skip a step. If you times in this by that, 5/7 of that, we can just do it straight on the top. So 5 times 154 over 7. What is 5 times 154? 770. And that's over 7. 770 divided by 7 is 110. So that's it. That is it. Fractions are really useful in probability, but what comes next is, what if you put 5 divided by 7 into your calculator? You'd get a decimal. That's what we're going to do next, so decimals. Yeah, I think that worked.